I recently recorded two videos, one all about the Garmin Fenix Pace Pro feature and one all about the GoPro Max 360 camera. For various reasons, those videos went very wrong. Because the sun is out today, I'm going to go for a run using the Pace Pro feature and film it largely with the GoPro Max and create two separate videos. If you are expecting to watch a video all about, then you're in the wrong place, because this one is all about. This could be a complicated day. The dog is coming with me because I don't know why. Why are you coming? Yeah, so that's the plan. What I will start with now is the cool opening that I did for the original version of these videos, because I put thought and effort into that opening and it would be a shame to waste them. What are you moaning about? There are 5 things I want to achieve today. Number 1, run an obstacle course race. And number 2, run it with the new GoPro Max, just launched yesterday. Number 3, take the fast dog Nixon with me. And number 4 and 5, take the slow dog Jefferson and the moderate speed fiance Jenna. Can all 5 things be done at the same time? They can, because bizarrely, Dogstacle is a real event and we are running it today. The GoPro Max has just arrived. The fast dog is ready and raring to go. The only hold up at the moment is that the slow dog and the moderate speed fiance are both still in bed, but we are quietly confident. What? I'm quietly confident. Dogstacle did happen. It was lots of fun. We won medals. There is photographic proof available. The dogs ran very well. But it poured with rain. There's one thing a GoPro doesn't like, it's water on the lens. The footage would have looked rubbish, so we scrapped the idea of filming that. Hence I took the camera out for the run instead. And there's going to be quite a bit of commentary from back here, because it wasn't until I started looking at the footage post-production and playing around with what I could do with it that I realised how cool the GoPro Max is. As I was doing the run, I was thinking this might have been a bit of a waste of money, but back here, I'm pretty convinced now that this is going to be my go-to camera. So lots of commentary to explain what I've done and how I fiddled about with it afterwards as we go. So Dogstacle didn't happen, forget that. I've got a dog here today though, so that will partly satisfy anyone that's keen to look at dogs. I'm gonna get running and do all the footage I need to record on the watch stuff for that video first, and then dive into the GoPro Max. Okay, so first of all, we're just gonna stick the GoPro 7 on the head. This is basically how I run an obstacle course race normally. GoPro 7, facing forward. So at this stage, my main interest is whether the GoPro Max will let me, in post-production, look left, right, up and down, even if I didn't do it at the time. Here I'm demonstrating how a regular GoPro works. You look left and right, up and down, and obviously it will go where your head points. Here's some footage from an earlier obstacle course race demonstrating the opposite of that problem, which is that when I duck my head under trees, and I don't want the camera to move, obviously it has to because it's bolted to my head. Back to the run with the dog, and demonstrating here, if I want to look at something, like the dog in this case, I have to physically point the camera at it. Pretty straightforward stuff. What I wasn't expecting was that the GoPro Max running in hero mode would be of any use to me at all. Now, in simple terms, hero mode on the Max basically turns off one of the cameras so you have a regular use GoPro. However, the stabilisation on this thing is awesome. Now, I've done a video in the past where I compared a GoPro 6 using the GoPro gimbal alongside a GoPro 7. That was back when GoPro said that new stabilisation on the 7 Black was so good you didn't need a gimbal. And my video confirmed that you do need a gimbal unless you don't mind it bouncing about all over the place. The stabilisation just wasn't that good. However, this is rock solid. Just looking at these two clips side by side, and the difference is huge. The GoPro Max might as well be using a gimbal. It is as good as that. In fact, I'd be happy to put a protective cover on the lens that isn't being used and just use this as a forward-facing camera. Now, I know that you get more video resolution options on the GoPro 7 or now the GoPro 8, but to be honest, I would rather have 1080p good quality stable footage than 4K footage that is bouncing around all over the place. So already the GoPro Max, just running in hero mode, that's the front facing camera running, the rear camera turned off, I've got my little cover on there for protecting it, is already a very, very cool bit of kit. Full stabilisation turned on, and it is blowing away anything that the 7 could do in the past. It's as good as running with a gimbal. If that's all it could do, I would rather run something like an obstacle course race or putting it on my motorbike where it's bouncing around. I'd rather run with that than the 7. But straight away it is obvious it does way more than that. This is 360 mode, but with horizon lock on, post-production, it levels everything out. Even though I'm bouncing around as I'm running along, it is rock solid as though I'm using a gimbal. Absolutely perfect stabilization. And if I want to do the fancy 360 stuff, it turns out that is just as easy as well. Here the camera just hanging down between me and the dog, and I can move the shot around, so I'm looking at the dog. I can now look behind me. Again, the camera isn't moving at all. This is all done in post. Looking forward again, the dog stops for a drink. I turn back and look at the dog. I zoom out a little bit. Camera is not moving. This is all done afterwards. Very, very straightforward. Okay, so that's all well and good for hopefully fancy pants 360 stuff. The other thing I'm interested in is whether, when strapped to my head, like I use the GoPro 7 on my obstacle course races, whether it will allow me to get the ability to basically look around from my head without obviously me having to turn my head. This is the big one for me. Can I take the camera, stick it on my head mount or on a chest strap, and have in post-production the ability to look around as though I was doing that at the time? Because if I can, that makes it a very, very cool gadget to be using on obstacle course races, or even just sticking onto the front of the motorbike or the bicycle when I'm riding along. I don't need to worry about pointing the handlebars or my head in the direction of what I want to film within reason. As long as it's within that field of view, I can jump on the computer afterwards and find what it was I was trying to look at. So what I'm doing here is holding the camera on the selfie stick, but right up close to my forehead as though it was strapped onto a head camera mount. And in case you're wondering why it's jiggling about all over the place, that's because the stabilization is not turned on. And I thought it would just be interesting to show the benefit of doing that. Here we go, stabilization on. Unbelievably good. That is as good as using any gimbal. And when we compare the two side by side, I'm not even going to bother labeling these. It is pretty clear which one is stabilized. That is the same piece of footage, stabilized on one side, not stabilized on the other. And now the looking around test, and it works just as I hoped. I can look to the right, I can look to the left, I can look up in the air, and I can look down at the ground without moving the camera at all in real time. The only thing I can't do is look backwards because my head will be in the way. In reality it won't, because I'll be using a protective cover on the back or the front, depending on which way you want to describe it as being round, so it won't be able to see my head. All that footage is exactly what I hoped for. It is covering all the shortcomings that I had when I was using the regular Hero for that sort of task, putting it on my head and going for a run, doing an obstacle course race. Previously, if I was on the monkey bars and looking up, then the camera has to look up. Likewise, if I'm looking forward and I want to look up, I can't. I can solve all those problems now. I've had situations where something funny has gone onto one side. I've been on rope climbs and someone's fallen off. That's not always funny, but sometimes it is. I can't be focusing on them at the time because I'll also fall off and look just as stupid. But it would be nice in post to be able to go back and capture some of that footage, even though I wasn't looking at it at the time, and within reason. Again, they've got to be vaguely within my field of view, or at least this camera's field of view. If it happened in that space, I can go and pick it up. Very, very impressed. I've got a run coming up on Saturday, nuclear races down in Essex, going to be using this to film that. Are there any shortcomings to it? Not really, not in comparison to the advantages it offers. It's a little bit heavier than a Hero, and so when it's strapped to a head mount, it's not that heavy. You'd have to have a pretty weak neck to struggle keeping your head still with that on it, and it doesn't matter if you can't, because you can stabilize your weak head afterwards in post-production. The screen is a bit more fiddly to clean with the regular flat screen Hero. If it got dirty and muddy, you just give it a lick and a wipe and away you go. You can't do that with the rounded screen quite so easily. It does come with this little deep sea diving mask type affair that is a protector that still allows it to see what's going on. Haven't used that in anger yet, going to try that and see how it goes. It does say in the packaging that it will affect the image quality. Have to see to what extent. What else? It doesn't film in such high resolution, but I don't really care. I'm doing all my stuff in 1080. Slow-mo would be good. I'm only filming in 25 frames per second. It means I can't slow it down and have it look good at all. It would be nice to think there'll be some sort of update at some point that will allow 50 frames per second so I could at least go down to half speed. That would be good. What else? What else? Oh, it does need a little bit of practice to get used to the invisible space behind the camera. Basically, the two lenses can see behind it, but not right behind it. A bit like sneaking up on an owl. If you've ever tried to sneak up on an owl, notoriously hard to do, unless you get right up close behind them, and then they're toast. That's the problem here. If your hand is too close to this, then it gets caught in that sort of blind spot where it's trying to stitch footage together from two cameras and it gets a bit blurry. That's just a case of practice. I'm going to be making a rig for this to go on the motorbike so I can have the camera sat right out in front. That's going to be pretty cool, and that will entail working out how far ahead the camera needs to be. So check back soon for that information. Other than that, very, very pleased with it. Need lots of practice on the software so that I can make the footage look really smooth and cool and professional. But other than that, it is now my go-to camera. I can't think why would I use a 7? I'd use the 7, in fact this is a 6. I'd use a 7 for doing slow-mo stuff, definitely, and for taking photos. Not that I take many photos with it, but that's about it. These two together, all I would ever need. Can't imagine any reason why I'd bother getting an 8. Why would I get an 8? I wouldn't get an 8. What will be very cool is when they eventually release the GoPro Max with all the resolution options that you get on a 7 or an 8. I guess that's a little way off. Until then, I'm pretty much sorted.